Because the original briefing for this car is they wanted something very, we said pura e dura, very
masculine,
pure and hard, very front engine F40 was actually the brief. So
really?
My original styling model, which I can also show you pictures of,
oh, I'd love to see
but
that
was even more aggressive. And then we toned it down from there and we began designing. And then it's a bit of a battle. It's always a bit of,
I need to cut that down. I got to get this to fit.
We need this chassis moved here. We need this part moved there. Or the engineers will say we need more cooling here or less there, or more aerodynamic downforce, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. And it's that back and forth. And the process is anywhere from a quick project, 2.5 years, up to certain projects that are laborious and go 3, 4, 5 years. This was pretty clean, pretty sure. No, this was really cool because this was bore out of the fact that, well, first off, Pininfarina had a really long history of doing the buttresses, starting with the 250 LM and the Type 2G, and for aerodynamics of having that little step, which was going to accelerate airflow, clean it up to the rear spoiler. And what was challenging about this car is because of the height of the rear deck, which was negotiated for a couple reasons. One, obviously aerodynamic load. 2, position of the gas tank. 3, the necessity for certain luggage. All these different parameters we have to design around. The rear of the car is very massive. So
it's huge.
I played around with this concept of, really wanting to have this teardrop canopy, which is kind of one of my signature design elements that I always try to instill in everything I do because I love aerodynamics.
Yeah, I like
everything's always. And then from there, I played with this concept of maintaining the coupe silhouette, the real fastback silhouette, because it is so Daytona, so 275.
Yeah, exactly.
And then playing with the idea of the buttresses back from the 250 LM and
pull the RE.
Exactly. And so I ran this idea to sketch by for our aerodynamicist at the time. And he said, that actually just might work because, in Formula One, that's when all these little canards were popping up and they were using them to just redirect airflow as well as anybody.
Absolutely.
And so, in fact, when we got it in the wind tunnel, we were actually able to get more downforce with less drag because as the air entered, it actually created a vortex. And that vortex then helped accelerate airflow to the rear spoiler. So it was functional, and at that point, it got the blessing. The fact that it's functional, and I think that you inherently understand that, it works. The thing about this car is that when you get into a supercar, mid-engine supercar, like a Ferrari Enzo or a Porsche Carrera GT or the Bugatti Veyron, you kind of know what you're getting into. You're kind of climbing down into a jet fighter and you're seated on the ground. You get into this car like you get into a BMW or Mercedes. I mean, it's a big, comfortable car, and you don't expect the speed. So it's really shocking at just how fast it is because, again, you open the door and it doesn't have special. It's ridiculously fast, and the fact that they keep making them even faster is even more ridiculous.
Oh yeah! If you want a car that when you pull up in anywhere is going to get people to go, is that the famous? Buy that car because that car shows up. I don't care if you show up in Bugatti Veyron. You come in at $599, everybody stops. And people when they see this car and then they go see my wife's California, they'll often say, "Oh, is the California like the convertible version?" And I said, "I know they look similar."
We put the California in this.
Yeah, but some people think they look similar when they don't see them together, and then I'll park them next to each other, and this looks like a tank next to that little toy car because it's so big and it just says fast and massive when you look at it.
Can you see the engine?
No. That's beautiful. This is something Ferrari's done in the last couple of years. Look at the engine when you open it. It's just sexy.
Yeah.
And I drive a lot of my cars with different people who go, wow, look at that. But this car, even in white, which I happen to think white shows the lines of this car better than any other color. As you can see, I'm somewhat fond of white. But I mean, in red.
Because when we actually present Ferrari designs, they're always in red because they have to look good in red. And this car, the GTO, looks good in red because it's lowered and it's got the more aggressive balances, which catch a bit more light and create a little more compression of the light and shadow. Because it is very much a sculpture. It's a sculpture of volumes. People think well, some people do design in lines. I design in volumes, so I think about these intersecting volumes. So you can, you see this main extrusion that's then being embraced by the volume of the nose, and then the catamaran-esque feeling of the front fenders with the wing plane suspended with the, and then the teardrop canopy which is suspended within that, and the buttresses which then give that structure. And
from start to finish, how long does it take to get this car from your brain into production?
The design and engineering are running in parallel. So it starts out with the vehicle architecture. So basically we work together to decide what the proportions of the vehicle are going to be. Ferrari engineers obviously are very strong in that because they want certain performance parameters, and then of course if we can make suggestions that are going to help stylistically to make the car even more attractive, and also hopefully add function, we do that. So gas tank position, radiator layout, all these things, we work together formulate that. And then the process is anywhere from a quick project, 2.5 years, up to certain projects are laborious and go 3, 4, 5 years. This was pretty clean, pretty straightforward. So it was about a 2.5 year project.
And
so
how many designers other than you were working in competition?
Well, it always starts as a competition amongst the studio. So in our studio we had at the time, say 10 or 12 designers. And then from there, it kind of gets whittled down to 5 or 6 main proposals that get chosen. And then usually 1, maybe 2 will go ahead in an actual physical model, and there'll be kind of a showdown between the 2. There was new research done, and then finally,
gorgeous car.
This came along, and yeah, it was a phenomenal project to be a part of.